The town has become a death zone, its residents collapsing unconscious. Not even livestock was spared, though the military came fully equipped. Anyone entering the zone would instantly collapse unconscious. The remaining survivors are unaware that even stranger events await this eerie town. Welcome to the sci-fi thriller The Midwich Cuckoos.
Mummy, what have you done?
In northwest England's Midwich, the townsfolk lived a peaceful and carefree life. Strange events began occurring in town. Household appliances went haywire, lights flickered wildly, and radios buzzed with static. The town went completely dark as panicked residents flooded the police station with calls. Engineers found the power anomalies were mainly in the blocks near the school after data analysis. It seemed like an EMP disrupted us, but the town substation was functioning normally. The whole thing came out of the blue. Workers were still troubleshooting the outage at dusk. The stable horses suddenly panicked, kicking down the wooden doors and fleeing down the street in fear. They fled like escaping a horror. The young townsfolk remained unaware of the impending danger. Only a few noticed the eerie glow on the horizon before power mysteriously returned. Residents couldn't turn lights off. The horrified boy gazed upward as the glowing lights merged into yellow lightning. The blinding lightning struck the schoolyard swiftly. Then stranger things occurred. All the residents near the school collapsed without warning. The horses also fell unconscious, lying completely still on the ground without any movement. The whole town froze as if paused, instantly plunged into deathly silence. Susan, a Midwich psychologist, was in London meeting an online friend she'd been talking to for weeks. Susan deeply understood the hardships of raising a child alone for over a decade. She left her socially anxious daughter at home to meet an online friend in London. By chance, she escaped the strange catastrophe. After finishing her meeting, she noticed the home phone was ringing unanswered. All trains returning to town were stopped due to a major power outage. Susan hurried home by taxi only to find the only town entrance blocked by police when she was about to enter. The town was under lockdown with all access points sealed. Susan was utterly confused about the situation around her. She had grown up in this small town. She took a back path around the blockade but still couldn't reach her daughter. Susan's chest tightened with worry. Suddenly she saw hazmat-suited figures approaching an unconscious townsman. The leader cautiously advanced with a safety rope, wary of some unseen horror lurking nearby. The rescuer fell down as soon as he approached the unconscious victim. His team swiftly hauled him back with the safety rope. Susan's blood ran cold at the sight. Seeing the staff notice her, Susan dashed desperately toward her home. Susan suddenly collapsed without any warning signs at all. The bizarre incident soon got the management's full focus. Chief Inspector Paul Haynes met with CIA agent Brittany in the town. Military investigators were en route and had cordoned off the disaster area beforehand. Communication was cut off and people near the area would faint mysteriously. Paul remained clueless about the details, unable to determine if the affected residents were alive. He sent a small drone to scout, but strong magnetic interference hit it upon entering the disaster zone. No images were transmitted back. The crew soon found Susan passed out near the edge of the zone. Susan recovered quickly thanks to her mild condition. Paul hurried over to gather clues. Susan recalled the moment before blacking out, just sudden lightness in her body, then dizziness and darkness. Paul proposed a full checkup, but Susan quickly refused. She only wanted to know about her daughter. Sadly, none of those present could answer her query. Paul drifted to the police tape in a daze. His pregnant wife was missing in the zone. Her final text to Paul was deeply unsettling.
It's kind of a bit weird. The lights are on again, and now they won't turn off. I'm a bit scared.
The families of victims like Susan were gathered in the gym awaiting updates. After the endless night, the military forces finally came. Paul rushed to the scene where experts from various fields had already assembled. A special team was set up for the crisis. Paul felt something was off. He advised moving the safe townspeople out. John, the task force leader, signaled them to wait. The military had sent a helicopter to assess the situation. Paul raised his eyes to the sky. A growing sense of dread filled him. The experts anxiously awaited the pilot's report. The helicopter crew fell unconscious as soon as they reached the disaster zone. The control panel sounded a malfunction alarm. The helicopter plummeted straight to the ground. The severity dawned on everyone, and Paul worried for his pregnant wife. She was, after all, several months along. The broadcast announced an alert. All personnel were ordered to evacuate other zones as planned. Even families sheltered in the gym got evacuation notices. Susan and others expressed strong discontent. They refused to leave the town until they knew their families were safe. The armed troops raised their guns, clearly aiming to disperse the crowd by force. Tensions were escalating when Susan's phone suddenly rang with a call from her daughter in the disaster area. Unexpectedly, all the unconscious townspeople woke at the same time. Other families also received calls from loved ones. The dormant town suddenly revived with energy. The bewildered residents looked around, still unclear about what had happened. Inspector Paul sighed in relief. With the mysterious blackout over, rescuers could finally move in. He had to stay and command the operation, so Agent Brittany was assigned to rescue his pregnant wife. People slowly returned to the streets. The disaster hadn't taken many lives. Brittany dashed to Paul's house and was met with a strong gas smell. He held his breath and rescued a woman from the hall, but it wasn't Paul's wife. Brittany dashed back inside and found a pregnant woman in the kitchen, but she was already gone. Paul rushed home upon hearing his wife had died, but could do nothing to change the outcome. The rescued woman was Paul's sister-in-law, now standing silently at the window. Susan returned to town in a police car and reunited with her daughter. Yet for some reason, the girl lifted her hand and softly pressed it to her stomach. At that very instant, every young woman who awoke, whether married or single, sensed something peculiar growing inside her belly. 2 months later, the town had moved on from the coma incident and life was returning to normal. Yet the hospital maternity ward grew busier. After the bizarre incident, the town saw a sudden rise in pregnancies. Sam and his wife just moved to the small town. They were desperate to have a child for some reason. They had been preparing for months. After the strange coma, she was overjoyed to find herself finally pregnant. For 2 months, they'd complied with all hospital tests. The hospital then invited them to a town hall meeting. The room was full of expectant mothers and partners. Everyone was accounted for. The medical expert on stage disclosed a horrifying fact to everyone. Every pregnant woman here conceived on that unconscious blackout night. Even those who expected the news were stunned by the revelation. The medical expert then revealed, doctors still don't know the cause. Thankfully, the positive aspect is all fetuses are perfectly healthy. Chief Inspector Paul Haynes assured everyone the special team would keep investigating. Sam and his wife found this truth utterly unacceptable. They believed their pregnancy resulted from careful preparation. This was due to some inexplicable reason. God knows if this is some secret experiment. Paul repeatedly stressed that the night's events were inexplicably bizarre. Given the chance of outside control, officials have declared this a code red case. This requires all present to sign NDAs, prohibiting any disclosure of pregnancy-related information. This further stirred up the crowd's emotions. Sam's wife demanded a lawyer. Then suddenly all their phones lost signal completely. Then soldiers with guns marched in. Paul calmly explained this had become a national security matter. You don't have a choice in this. Susan joined the hearing with her pregnant daughter. Susan recognized her unmarried daughter's unusual pregnancy and supported the authorities' cautious stance. Several more shared their stories and finally swayed the crowd. They agreed to sign the NDA, which included full cooperation with tests and experiments. The authorities were keen to identify the baby's father. Not all women came to terms with their pregnancies, especially those who were single and unprepared for motherhood. 3 young women opted to end pregnancies. Signing forms at the hospital, the lights flickered overhead. Their eyes glazed over, and the group stood up without signing. They swiftly left the room like puppets. A mysterious force appears to shield these unborn children in the dark. This wraps up the Midwich Cuckoos Episode 1. Is it alien interference or an unexplainable phenomenon? Seeking answers, drop your thoughts in the comments below. If response is good, I'll keep updating the mystery show. That's it for now. See you next time.